What's up, everyone, and welcome into another episode of Wizards Latest. I'm your host and DC sports fan, Ben Robertson, and on this page, we break down all the biggest headlines surrounding the Washington Wizards. So, today, we have to chat about the first round of the NBA draft. Initial disappointment to the Jazz taking Ace Bailey with the number 5 pick, but then excitement about landing one of the blue chip prospects in this class in Trey Johnson. I'll break down whether I like the draft night trade Will Dawkins made, and finally, we'll see what the Wizards might do next in the second round of this draft and moving forward in the offseason. Remember, drop comments below about anything you might hear in the video. You can also hit me up over on Twitter at BenRobertson32 with any thoughts or future video ideas. So let's jump right in. Everything was going according to plan in the first round of the NBA draft. VJ Edgecombe went third, Con Knipple went fourth to Charlotte, and then Utah messed things up. They snagged Ace Bailey. They said, we don't care if he says he wants to stay on the East Coast. We feel like this is the best talent available in the class with this 5 pick, and they selected Ace. It's kind of funny. Obviously, Ace's real name is Arius, and I'm sitting at home watching the draft with a friend. I have the notifications on from Shams, like all of you guys probably do too, but at least the early few picks, I try to just watch on TV, like a TV show, sort of, keep the excitement just a little bit around the draft. And so Adam Silver gets up there and says Arius, and I don't even know who I was thinking of, but as soon as I didn't hear Ace, I went, yes, and then I went, wait a second, that's just his full name. But that slight disappointment was really immediately flipped around by the Wizards then turning around and taking Trey Johnson with that number 6 overall pick. And while I was wrong in my NBA draft prediction that Ace would fall to the number 6 pick, I was proven just barely correct about not feeling like both of them would fall out of the top 5, Trey and Ace. I really thought one of them would go in those top 5 selections. Ace, like I said, just barely proved that correct by going with that 5th overall pick. But there was a couple quotes from Trey Johnson that I just absolutely loved last night in his press conference after getting selected. He said a couple things. He said, one, I can help this team by not only my spacing the floor, but also with my playmaking. And I just loved that because I just love the idea that he's not, maybe locking himself into one role already. Obviously, we're bringing him in for his scoring ability. That's what he's known for. That's what he's going to be great at in the NBA. But I love that he's just already seeming to be willing to, do different things to help the team win. That was a little bit of a paraphrase quote. Here's a direct quote from Trey Johnson's press conference post-draft. He said, I really don't have a life outside of basketball. And what he meant by that was that essentially I've sacrificed going out and having fun and doing the other things, a typical teenager might do because I want to be great at this game. And as an incoming draft pick, and obviously as a Wizards fan, that is just exactly what you want to hear. So all of the right things coming from Trey Johnson post-draft. And I want you guys to realize, really, this is no shock that he, was the SEC Freshman of the Year, led the league in scoring as a freshman, a McDonald's All-American in high school, Texas Mr. Basketball in high school. It's not like a shock that he turned into this star immediately in college. He was one of the blue chip prospects since his high school days. He's been one of the highest rated recruits on these draft boards and on these teams' radars. And I just don't believe anybody that lit up the SEC the way he did as a freshman, averaging almost 20 points a game, shooting just below 40% from three-point land. I don't believe that scoring ability isn't going to carry over on some level. The question is, can he score the same way and at the same clip and with the same volume that he did in college in the league while also being a winning player that doesn't just contribute offensively, and as a shooter, he's also an efficient winning player that helps out on defense and maybe playmakes like he sort of alluded to a little bit. Super excited, like I said, just to watch Trey Johnson play. I think a backcourt potentially with him and Bub Carrington. I'm assuming this, really slides Bub into the full-time point guard role. I'm really just excited to see what those two can do. I think it's going to be pretty fun to watch. Have to imagine with that mix, the veteran CJ McCollum is coming off the bench, but we'll talk about that more as the season gets closer. So make sure you subscribe, hit the like button while you're down there as well to Wizards Latest. But I want to talk about the draft night move that Will Dawkins pulled off to gain himself some more second-round picks in this year's class. So my feeling is that with that number 18 pick that the Wizards also held in the first round, Will Dawkins just didn't maybe see the guy he wanted. Maybe it was, Queen and Sorber and players of that like were already off the board. I'd be curious to know if Will Dawkins was calling up the draft board at all, trying to move up maybe a little bit to snag one of those guys and just couldn't find the right deal. But my feeling on that draft night trade that the Wizards made was essentially Will Dawkins didn't see the guy he wanted at 18 and pulled off a really savvy move. If you remember, the Wizards traded away their second-round pick in this year's draft class in the Jordan Poole Sadiq Bey trade for CJ McCollum and Kelly Olynyk. So we weren't going to have the 40th overall pick in this year's class. Well, Will Dawkins gets us back into the second round tonight with the number 43 overall pick, and then also added a couple more second rounders well down the line, and all it was really for the price of was swapping the number 18 pick for the number 21 pick in last night's first round. So it's not a move that's maybe going to stop social media or have everyone running to the presses, but it's just another smart, savvy maneuver that Will Dawkins has made since being here in DC, and then where he, maybe proved our video or discussion right just slightly yesterday. While I thought, the move from 18 was going to be to go up and get somebody in the first round, that was obviously incorrect. It did prove to be somebody slightly off our radars in Will Riley, the wing out of Illinois. And Riley really just fits the length and the versatility that this front office consistently seems to be looking for. So again, another thing to, maybe let me know down below what you thought about that draft night move. Maybe hit me over on Twitter at Ben Robertson32 as well with your thoughts on that as well. So finally, I want to break down just what do you guys think that the Wizards are going to do here in tonight's second round? Again, getting back into this second round with the number 43 overall pick. Will Dawkins said yesterday after the first round that it was really important with Johnson and Riley that they were both guys that wanted to be here and wanted to be here in DC. So interested to see if there's a player in the second round that he's familiar enough with and really specifically thinking about in that regard. And then really just the rest of this offseason should continue to be super interesting as well. It kind of feels like anybody could be on the move right now. Nothing is really set in stone, it feels like, with this roster. Maybe CJ McCollum might still be moved on after we traded Poole for him, whether it's maybe Marcus Smart maybe being moved on, one of the veterans on the lineup. Just really curious to see what this front office does and the direction they go as this offseason progresses. We will break it all down here. Videos dropping daily, Monday through Friday. So make sure you subscribe, drop your comments, hit the like button. Once again, hit me over on Twitter at Ben Robertson32. I'm going to be active over there responding to you guys. And thanks for watching another episode of Wizards Latest.